They hope you'll forget. They expand a tax on truth and freedom as new generations aren't aware of their previous political offenses. And now Chuck Schumer is pushing for Joe Biden to take over the presidency and issue an executive order erasing college loan debt, counting on Americans forgetting that Barack Obama already did his own debt forgiveness dance, and forgetting it's been the federal involvement in handling college loans that's caused the price explosion in colleges in the first place. Hi, everyone. I'm Gardner Goldsmith for MRC-TV. You know, one of the many educational phenomena to observe when staring into the abyss of politics is how many government hacksters claim to care for the next generation, even as they enslave them with generational debt. Senator Chuck Schumer is a perfect example of one of those figures. The New York Post's Carl Campanile reports that, along with Native American Senator Elizabeth Warren, the Democrat from Massachusetts, the New York Democrat is pushing a proposal to cancel huge amounts of debt that U.S. college students willingly shouldered. Getting rid of student debt. I have a proposal with Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren that the first $50,000 of debt be vanquished. I don't know who's more plastic, Chucky the doll or Chuck Schumer.
King Chucky.
You know, this is ridiculous. Next question.
It's a close call. But Schumer's not done with his unconstitutional create problems by supposedly solving earlier problems created by government proposals. As Campanile notes, Schumer continued. We believe that Joe Biden can do that with the pen as opposed to legislation, Schumer said during an interview with The Ink. And how could Biden do that? Well, if Smoky Joe is called El Presidente, he'll be in charge of the executive branch. And since the parasites in the federal government show their absolute contempt for the U.S. Constitution by issuing virtually all loans for higher education in the U.S., and since the management of those unconstitutional student loans is under executive branch control, Joe could, like Chuck, claim to care for young Americans by canceling their willingly adopted loans, which would mean, you got it, that the U.S. government would drop $1.6 trillion in expected payments, increasing the federal debt, which in turn would mean, you got it, it would have to be paid through increased taxes, which would in turn mean, you got it, it would be paid by those young people and other people like, you and like me, who never signed on to those loan obligations. It's a great way to help solve the debt problems of kids who recklessly took on tens of thousands in college debt. Simply pretend to wipe out the debt, shift the debt to the already massively debt-ridden U.S. government, and then by extension, force those same young people and others who were never party to their decisions to pay through taxation. Isn't it nice to be a slave at risk of being made to work more despite not having chosen to take on someone else's debt? And isn't it great to see how the federal government has slowly but inexorably not only taken over the student loan market, but by doing so has artificially increased demand for college education and, as a result, pushed college prices sky high, which in turn increases the amount the government hands out in loans, perpetuating this precious, pernicious cycle. In addition to the prima facie insults to the U.S. Constitution that executive orders and federal loans for anything represent, how in the world did we get dragged into this tyranny, this artificially created demand and enslavement? As Daniel Kowalski writes for the Foundation for Economic Education, it's pretty clear. Student loans did not exist in their present form until the federal government passed the Higher Education Act of 1965, which had taxpayers guaranteeing loans made by private lenders to students. While the program might have had good intentions, it has had unforeseen harmful consequences. Folks familiar with economics, government subsidies, and the term moral hazard No. This fueled demand for the higher education business, where existing universities and colleges expanded their academic programs in the arts and humanities to suit students not interested in math and sciences. And it also led to many private universities popping up to meet the demands of students who either could not afford the tuition or could not meet the admission criteria of the existing colleges. In 1980, there were 3,231 higher education institutions in the United States. By 2016, the number increased by more than 1/3 to 4,360. And the U.S. has steadily increased the yearly and total amounts that students can receive in loans. In the 1980s, the total was $2,500 per year over 4 years. But that's jumped to $12,500 annually and $57,500 total, while grad students can borrow up to $20,500 annually and $138,500 total, incorporating their undergraduate loans, all of which has seen a spike in college charges, or, as Eric Sherman reported in September, the average cost of attending a 4-year college or university in the United States rose by 497% between the 1985-86 and 2017-2018 academic years, more than twice the rate of inflation. The cost of attending a traditional 4-year university has been rising more than twice as fast as inflation, and 2-year community colleges a third faster. And now Chuck and Liz want to pass legislation or see an executive order to shift nearly $2 trillion in debt onto people who never had any hand in taking on the debt. Sounds familiar in government circles, doesn't it? And what's even more insulting about these grand pronouncements is that these leftists and others have to be well aware of the fact that President Obama already so-called forgave a huge swath of college debt owed to the feds. In other words, they already put us on the hook for college loans. It started with Obama's announcement of the
pay-as-you-earn plan. This measure was passed by Congress and was supposed to kick in 2014. Instead, the president wants to put it into effect next year. And under this new plan, your student loan payments would not exceed 10% of your discretionary income. And after 20 years, any remaining debt would be forgiven.
It was a change in the way that the unconstitutional Department of Education would handle repayment of federal college loans. A change announced in 2011 and implemented in December of 2012. It was an executive branch action that saw the feds cap yearly repayments on 10-year college loans for single people at 10% of the debtor's annual gross income. But that wasn't enough for Obama. So in 2014, he announced an expansion of his original rework. And this was an expansion that actually saw a cutoff point beyond which loan recipients would no longer have to pay a single dime. As Stephen Van Bergen wrote for Fox 17 in 2015, teachers can have their balance canceled after 10 years, for example. Low-income borrowers can have their balance canceled after 20 or 25 years of on-time payments. So you're already on the hook.
Thanks, Obama.
You get to pay the balance of loans for the very teachers who've connected to the public trough of tax-funded government schools now. And you get to pay the balance for low-income borrowers after 20 or 25 years. And even with all that in the history of this smash-and-grab government deception, people like Schumer have the gall to spout the drivel that they do. It seems that one doesn't need to go to college to learn. We can learn a lot by looking at the sly and corrupt posturing of people like Schumer as they pander and try to make people overlook history, economics, the U.S. Constitution, and ethics. We can learn and take Schumer to school when we see him, when he is in public, and when he's given an easy play by the sycophantic press. And we can hold on to the truth and watch these videos and spread them to others. We can tell others to please remember the information regardless of what happens down the line with new politicians. Boy, talk about an education. Thank you so much, everyone. Please, if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you're still subscribed. Sometimes people get dropped off. I'll see you in the comments section. Don't forget to hit the little like button. We'll see you at MRCTV.org as well. And remember, Christmas is coming up, so MRC-Store is a good location to get some really good Media Research Center swag and maybe get the attention of some of the leftists out there. We'll see you on Instagram. We'll see you on Facebook. I'm at Twitter. And of course, MRC is at Twitter. And Newsbusters is at Twitter. Eric Shiner's at Twitter. Everybody's at Twitter. We'll see you over there. And yeah, I know. We're hanging on. Twitter's a little frustrating sometimes. But we'll see you there. And I'm on Gab as well at Gardner Goldsmith. For MRC TV, I am Gardner Goldsmith.